You go, my colleague. Go.
Are we all live?
Yeah, live.
Hey, I know it's a little late. We're coming to you live from Manamet with the Ask Rosie Show, Episode 5. It's our remote location. It's something brand new for us, right? So without further ado, she's a dancer and she's a prancer. Let's welcome in Rosie Doherty.
Woo!
How you doing, Rose?
I'm doing good, so...
Let me ask you a couple of questions. How's your vacation going so far
my
down here in
vacation's
Manamet?
going wonderful.
Manamet.
My vacation's going wonderful, and as I was saying, this is the quote I used last time. Do or do not. There is no try. And thank God Yoda says that, because Yoda's like one of the best characters.
Okay, so tell us what you've been doing this week down here in Manamet.
Just relaxing and maybe singing in the car sometimes. I get carried away with music. I love it.
And what do you think of the beach?
The beach is wonderful too.
Okay, so go ahead.
okay.
Ask your questions.
Okay, so we have two questions this week. For the Breaking Bad fans, which I'm guilty of being a Breaking Bad fan, I admit, who plays Jesse Pinkham on Breaking Bad? What's the name of the actor? And then there's the option number 2. So if you're not so much into the keen on that, well, I would say please comment if you want to answer question number 1. I forgot about that, sorry. And then option 2, if you're not so keen on that, then you can try Wicked, which is like who plays the original Alpha in that play. So please comment on that if you want to do that option. It doesn't matter which option you do, because 2 people who answer different questions get a prize.
Okay, Rosie, so tell us a little bit about this week's special guest.
This week's special guest, he's a weatherman, and he's also my cousin, and he's very special to me. And of course, he asked Mr. Joel a question on my show. He appeared once. He was a studio audience, and now he gets to be on the show. Matthew Capucci.
Hello, hello.
Okay.
Where's yeah.
So, hi, Matthew.
Hi, Rosie.
How you doing? So, I want to ask you the first question. So, how did you hear about Mr. Joel Salinas?
Thanks, great question. So it was funny, back in my junior year of high school, I was in a class called TOK, so Theory of Knowledge. It's part of the IB program, and part of it is that we really try to delve into how we know certain different things, how we can be sure we know it.
Megan Reaney answered. Yeah. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, yep. And one of those things, one of those ways that we can know something is through sensory perception. So what we take in, whether it be sight, sound, taste, things like that. But we learned about this gentleman by the name of Joel Salinas, who was interesting in that he had synesthesia, which, of course, as you know, is kind of a cross-wiring of the sensory perceptors. And we read all about him, and over time became very fascinated with him, and actually several students did their essays for the end of the year on him and on his condition, and how that related into the Theory of Knowledge framework, which was pretty interesting. So it was definitely a privilege to be here last weekend to get to meet him in person.
I know that's wonderful. That you could thank me for that.
Oh, thank you.
So another question is, what inspired you to be a weatherman and not like something else, like just a news anchor or something like that?
Well, thank you. That's a couple good questions. News anchors always seem to have sad stuff. Like, it's always the latest politics, it's death, destruction, devastation. Weather is something fun, weather's something always changing. And I love it and I've loved it pretty much since age 3, because no 2 days are the same. Everything's different. You always get to try something new, see something new. And the best part is that it's always changing. You can always learn something new from it. And that's what I like. That there's never going to be a day where I'm fully confident in what I'm doing. I'll always be learning. I'll always be getting better. And I think that's the challenge, and that's the reason why I love it.
So we also learned that you convinced Harvard to create your own major. So what made you want to do that? Like, just create your own major? Like, it's hard work. A lot of people wouldn't do that. So what inspired you to do that?
Well, thank you, Rosie. It was funny. I never originally wanted to go to Harvard. Instead, I wanted to go out to Cornell, but Harvard kind of does a Walmart price match guarantee. They give the best financial aid, and I knew that Cornell would match their offer. So I applied to Harvard, hoping Cornell would do the same, and they did. Of course, the Harvard interview process was really weird. I didn't know there was an interview because I did not take the Harvard application seriously. So one day, I'm off tutoring, phone's off, whatnot, or phone's on mute, and I had this old little flip phone, and my phone rang, and my phone never rings, and it rang. And I thought, who could that be? Couldn't recognize the number. And it rang again. And meanwhile, I'm tutoring. I don't answer. I'm trying to be professional. Rings a third time. Rings a fourth time. Finally, on the fifth time in like 5 minutes, I pick it up and I say, "Who are you? What do you want? I don't want solar panels, and leave me alone. Take me off your calling list." Turns out it was Harvard. "Yes, my name is Haley Shaw from the Harvard University Admissions Department. We'd like to interview you tomorrow." I went, "Oh, shoot." So it turns out Harvard does interviews. So I interviewed the next day, and it was fun. And somehow I got into Harvard, but I went out to Cornell because Cornell had matched Harvard's offer. And it just wasn't really the school for me. You know, they wouldn't take my lunch coupon, and that was the final straw. So I said bye Cornell, and somehow ended up at Harvard. So it was kind of by necessity that I created my own major, and it was a 1.5 years worth of work, a grueling process. I ran by some very mean guy by the name of Dr. Meanie Pants, who works in the Earth and Planetary Sciences. He's really Meanie Pants Jerry, so if you know Meanie Pants Jerry, don't be friends with him. Anyway, so yeah, and fortunately we overturned his ruling and got the major, and it's so much fun.
So we also learned that you had quite the experience in Oklahoma. Tell us about that.
Yes, Oklahoma. That was probably my most fun month, and it was nice because for the first time I could really come up with my own forecasts, but also put them into practice. So if I felt there was going to be a storm in Ponca City, Oklahoma, I'd drive to Ponca City. If I felt the next day there'd be a storm in Elk City, I'd be in Elk City or Clinton or McLean, Texas, or things like that. And it was nice. The month as a whole was not really very conducive to storm chasing. It was tough because there weren't too many really good storms, but there were a couple days that did produce some good ones. And my favorite was back on May 16th. So I started the day up in Guyman, Oklahoma. So you know how Oklahoma has that pointy part? Yeah. I was right in that pointy part. And I started there and I drove down into the panhandle of Texas. And in the morning I sat there and I waited in Canadian Texas, and I finally predicted that Elk City would get something good. So we started going. I had my friend Aaron with me. And with that, we got into a pretty good supercell storm, and it was good, but it was just so rain-wrapped and tough to see that it wasn't really a storm that I liked. And then we kept driving, and I placed all my bets on this little tiny storm. I mean, it was like a cloud, this little tiny storm farther south. And we raced after it. We got on it, and it was a beautiful storm, textbook supercell, meaning the whole thing's rotating. And picture something 5 times as big as Mount Everest, and the whole thing spinning. It was crazy. So we got on that storm. And at one point, I said to my friend Aaron, you know, and there was a tornado. We did get to see it. We saw the silhouette, but it was rain wrapped, and unfortunately killed a couple people, which was sad, but it was amazing to see. And then at one point, I said to my friend Aaron, you know, it was raining at this point. I said, "Aaron, I think we're going to be going to some big hail. Please reach underneath your seat and pull out your hard hat and your safety glasses." And that'd be like on the airplane if the pilot came over and said, "Hey, grab the life vest." No one ever thinks they're going to have to use it. And he said, "Wait, why am I doing that?" I said, "We're going to get some big hail." He had never seen hail larger than about this size. Never anything larger than this. So, oh, sorry, I choked on my gum. So he puts that stuff on, and 5 minutes down the road.
No CPR, no Heimlich.
Nothing like that, yeah. Live studio audience, anyway. They're not helping me. We got hail about the size of softballs, and I had seen some melted ones on the ground, and I knew we were super close to the hail core, but we had to keep going. So with that, they started coming down. A couple hit the hood. In fact, if we were out front, and you'd see how bad they are. I'll show you after if you want. Big, big dents. And I was praying, don't hit the windshield, don't hit the windshield. And we had a half mile to go until the overpass. And then bam, the whole windshield came out. Had a couple good dents in the windshield. And we were so lucky because the skylight is made of a different type of glass. So if the skylight gets hit, it just falls in. So it didn't hit the skylight. 3 came within about 1.5 inches. None hit the skylight.
Wow.
So, I have more questions
Sure.
for you. So why is the movie Twister, that you said it was inaccurate? So
Yes.
this kind of was very interesting to me, like how the tornado spins. So can you tell us more about that?
Sure, so that's a really cool question. I love answering these kind of questions because in the northern hemisphere, you know how the Earth spins, that creates something called the Coriolis force. And that means areas of low pressure that span multiple latitudes, so basically big areas of low pressure, will tend to rotate counterclockwise. And that means all the smaller thunderstorms within them will rotate counterclockwise, and so will all the little vortices, so tornadoes, things like that. In Twister, they were wrong. They made them spin clockwise, and that's not correct. So 99.5% of all tornadoes in the northern hemisphere spin counterclockwise. So that's the first thing Twister did wrong. Number 2, they say Twister was set back in 1969, and in the opening scene, they have, I think, Helen Hunt and a couple other people, if you've seen the movie, and I know you have, they have a couple people at a farmhouse, and they say, "Oh, tornado's coming. TV says it's big. Might be an F5. The Fujita scale, which is what the F5 referenced, was not invented until 1974. So they had a couple things they weren't really paying too much attention to.
So if you're looking for insurance when you're chasing tornadoes, Geico's the way to go. That's what Matthew has, is Geico insurance. It covers windshield and all those other things.
Dad,
15 minutes could save you 50% more on car insurance.
And a safety.
yeah, Dad, so what have you learned from being a weatherman?
That's a really good question. You know,
Rosie stumped Matthew.
wow, it's just such a broad question. You know, I could talk about the dynamics of winter storms. I could talk about severe thunderstorms. I learned a couple things. I think the first one is public speaking. It's really helped me to become a better public speaker. So I think that's one good thing. But above all, it's told me to really stick with my gut. You know, in Oklahoma, there were a lot of computer models that meteorologists rely on. And there were times that I'd take them, I'd look at them, and I'd throw them out the window, and I'd try to do something different. And most of the time, it worked better than the models did. So I think because models, the computers that we use, don't really have that personality, they don't have that forecaster intuition, I think sometimes it's better to just throw them out the window and do your own thing.
That's awesome. Hey, Rosie, what an awesome guest, don't you think?
Yes, I think he's definitely.
Hey, my pleasure to be
What
here.
an
I'm so
awesome guest.
grateful
Hey,
to be here.
we got one last thing we need to do, don't we?
Yes.
You're not going to make me dance.
Nope.
No.
Happy birthday to Christine. Happy birthday to Christine. Happy birthday, Christine Darney. She's 23. She's going to be a doctor. Happy birthday. Get out of here. To you. And we want to thank everyone. This is the Ask Rosie show and our special guest, Matthew Capucci. And it was great that he was able to come on the show. You've done a great
Awesome
job. Next week we're going to have another show, another special guest. We're not sure what day we're going to come to, what day we're going to be here, but we'll let you know. So for the Ask Rosie show, this is Mike Doherty.
And Rosie Doherty.
And Matthew Capucci.
We'll see you later. Goodbye.